And Jerry Botha, managing tax partner at Tax Consulting, joins me now. We're going to be talking about citizenry. What does that mean? A lot of South Africans emigrating, going to different parts of the world, looking for various opportunities that exist, whether they are, the movements, whether they are economic, political, religious, or whatever the story may be. It involves the issue of citizenry and what is that, the technicalities around that. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation on 011-883-0702. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us, sir. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
So, Jerry, what is citizenry? I mean, I suppose a lot of people would say, but what a stupid question, Aubrey. Because we all know what citizenry is. It means that you're a citizen of a country. But I suppose what I'm looking for is a better understanding of the technicalities of what a citizen is. What is expected of a citizen? What is the right of a citizen? What can a citizen expect from that status? And how to get citizenry in another country, if that is the inclination. What is citizenry, Jerry?
Well, I'm a humble tax guy. So obviously I think for most South Africans, your citizenship is you're a citizen of South Africa. It comes from the Constitution that's protected and enshrined in the Constitution. And normally you get it by birth. Other than other countries, South Africa don't really run a program that's aimed at trying to make foreign national citizens of South Africa. And I think obviously that's where our talent gets heavily competed against by the likes of Australia, Canada. I mean, even a UK, a US, they run programs to really attract, the cream of the crop, either wealth or well-qualified professionals to basically become citizens of their country. And then I guess we obviously see a lot of South Africans simply just buying a certain citizenship of another country. There's a whole host of countries that for an amount of money will make you a citizen of their country, and that's what commonly is referred to as what they call, I think, the Plan B. That kind of just gives you that option.
Yeah.
That if you leave South Africa, where to can you go?
So let me understand. You've just pointed out to a number of countries like the US, Canada, Australia, that these countries literally sell citizenship in order to attract the best minds, the best skills for their economies. And you're saying that South Africa doesn't have a program of that nature. Is that something that is constitutionally problematic? Why does South Africa not have something like that? And why do these other countries have something like that? What is it that they have in their law that allows them to do something like that?
Well, I think that, again, this is obviously a contentious issue. It's depending on your country's strategy. But I think that in many countries, they see that by attracting top talent, that's human capital. So certain countries, just depends on the amount of money that you've got to basically embark on a citizenship program.
Yeah.
Other countries, like, for example, the Netherlands, it's far more difficult there if you're older and rich to embark on citizenship, but they would absolutely take you if you're well qualified in certain areas like finance or IT. We visited the Netherlands this year, and it is just astounding how many job opportunities are over there. We were in the Channel Islands, the Isle of Man, Jersey, Guernsey this year, part of our team. And they would literally say, don't you know of any South African chartered accountants that would please like to come over? Sometimes we don't even want to interview them. There really is a shortage of staff out there. So we do live in a world of people competing. And I think in South Africa, and we obviously have different realities. I think I don't necessarily want to veer into this, but obviously the ZEP program was just extended by the minister for 6 months. And part of his announcement was to say that is to give a bit of grace for the ZEP permit holders to to perhaps apply for an exemption or a permit that will allow them to progress towards a path of citizenship. So it might quite be accurate to say that you cannot become a citizen of South Africa as a foreign national, because the minister just made an announcement to kind of encourage the ATP permit holders to start that permit process if you've been here for long. But we don't really advertise ourselves as a location where we say, listen, we want to head-on compete for top talent from around the world or wealthy individuals to make it very easy for them to come settle here, perhaps as a gateway to Africa or for what South Africa has got to offer.
Let's start first with South Africa. I suppose it's the safest place to start. Is there a mandatory process that you follow to become a South African citizen? And what are the rules around the granting of citizenship to a foreign national, for example? And then we'll go on to South Africans perhaps that want to move to other countries. What processes should they follow? But let's talk about South Africa. If I'm a foreign national from anywhere in the world and I want to be a citizen of South Africa, is there a process that I follow? And does it guarantee me citizenship if I follow that process?
Well, I guess, yes, it's a process. And typically the process is that you must reside in South Africa for a period, or you must have a certain type of work visa in South Africa to basically start the process of getting citizenship here. Now, certain types of permits, like an intercompany transfer permit, where you get a foreign national just to come work here for a couple of years as an intercompany transfer, that does not put you on a path of permanent residency or citizenship. But other permits, like, for example, critical skills, if you've got a critical skills work visa, you can then apply for permanent residency. And after that, of course, you can eventually get to a point of citizenship. But it basically is a work visa process that turns effectively towards permanent residency. I guess the closest to that is what I guess we would all call the US green card, for example. And then after that, you eventually become a citizen as a next step, if you choose to do so.
Yes. And is it mandatory? In other words, would the government of the Republic of South Africa have to give you citizenship if you follow those processes, Jerry?
I mean, it's always a process of adjudication, and I mean, obviously, I think if you're fully compliant and you tick all the boxes, just from an administrative or law perspective, we always see it happening.
Yes.
But we don't really see that many foreign nationals actually applying for South African citizenship, because a lot of foreign countries say if you apply for South African citizenship, you'll lose your citizenship of the other country. So normally when foreign nationals come to South Africa, I think for them the prize is to get to a point of permanent residency, where they can stay permanently or indefinitely. We don't really see a big move towards actually getting South African citizenship, and because now we're into that space of what is a South African passport worth. And obviously for affluent people or for business people, a passport is really worth the ease of travel, I think, often, or where you can reside. And unfortunately, South Africa don't rank very well there.
And explain to me the difference between citizenship and permanent residency.
So permanent residency would just be the fact that you're still on a foreign passport in South Africa. You're not a citizen here, but you can permanently reside in South Africa. Whilst, so I guess it would be the same as a US green card, as I've said, but you're not a US national. If I can try and draw a parallel between the two.
I don't know what a green card is.
A green card is basically the US equivalent, which is what they call the green card lottery. You might have heard of that.
Yeah.
Where you can basically become, you can freely reside in the US, and you obviously, in the case of the US, get the privilege of paying tax on your worldwide income. In South Africa, there's no real link between citizenship and your tax obligation in South Africa. We just work on the principle of whether you're tax resident here.
Jerry, I really don't know what you've just said to me, so you really need to slow down. All right, so you a citizen is somebody that can vote?
Yes.
And a permanent resident, can they vote?
Not as far as I know. I'm not a expert on voting rights.
Yeah.
I think as a citizen, you can obviously get called up to fight in a war.
Yeah.
You can have certain civic duties,
Yeah.
But as a permanent residency, it really just means that you are still a national of a foreign country. You just have the right to stay in South Africa permanently.
And how's it different to a person who has a visa, for example, to study in South Africa? I mean, that person has a right to stay in South Africa. Are the privileges that accrue to a permanent resident different to a person that has a study visa, for example?
Yes, because that permanent residency is indefinite. So it's not for a specific period.
Right.
And of course, that is a big thing that I see with people moving internationally, is the safety of knowing how long you can stay in a location if you choose to do so.
And of course, if you are a permanent resident, you then enjoy all of the privileges I suppose a citizen can enjoy, except that you are not a citizen.
I think that's an accurate statement, yes. Even from a banking perspective, you can qualify for the same type of mortgage as a citizen. Whilst if you are from a banking perspective, just here on the work visa, they would only bank you slightly differently. You can't qualify for the same degree of credit and so much and so forth.
Yes, and then I understand why people wouldn't be clamoring to get South African citizenship. I mean, if you've got permanent residency, I mean that should be enough. I would imagine. Okay, I get it. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move. Sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
No, I just think you're right that it practically ticks all the boxes. I think having permanent residency.
Yeah. And again, does the prerogative as to the granting of permanent residency, citizenship, still lie within the Department of Home Affairs, or is it a mandatory thing? Because one of the big issues that have arisen in the whole ZEP debate is that a lot of people have been saying this. I mean, living in this country for close on 20 years, yeah? Perhaps I wasn't living in this country with a legal document in the first 10 years, but that's why the government granted me a ZEP document. So I've been living in this country for 20 years. Surely I should be given citizenship, or at least permanent residency, because I've been living in this country for 20 years. And I've had conversations with a minister who said, but there's no such law, there's no such rule that says because you've been residing in a particular country for any number of years, you then automatically have to have residency or citizenship. What is your understanding of that space?
Well, I think, firstly, you're absolutely accurate. I think what the minister said was absolutely accurate. Now, I would encourage anybody that's unclear about that topic to listen to that interview that was held with the minister, because I think he perfectly articulated it.
Yep.
The ZEP category in law does not allow you to qualify for permanent residency. And of course, the minister is not bigger than the law. And what he said is he's opening it up to give people the opportunity to apply for an exemption or a permit category that will allow them to stay for longer, and the category that will result ultimately in them getting permanent residency or citizenship. So I thought that was an impressive interview.
Yeah. Let's talk about if you are a South African wanting to go elsewhere, for example, and what happens to your South African citizenship should you be vying or applying for citizenship in Canada, for example, Australia, or Nigeria. What happens to your South African citizenship? What does the law in South Africa say as far as that is concerned?
Very good question. So if you get citizenship of another country and you've not first basically applied to the Department of Home Affairs to keep your South African citizenship, your South African citizenship automatically terminates when that other citizenship is granted.
Oh, so you've got to apply to keep it.
You have to apply to keep it. The only, I think, two exceptions to that general rule is if you're a minor and you get another citizenship, then your South African citizens don't fall away. And if it's because of marriage that you get another citizenship, your South African citizenship do not fall away.
Tell me more. Why? If you're a minor, tell me why? Why?
That is just the way the law is written. I think it's Section 6 of the Citizenship Act that says, and I'm kind of recollecting the quote, that if you will automatically lose your South African citizenship if you become a citizen of another country, except if you're a minor, and I presume because you can't make a choice to become a citizen of another country. It happens by operation of the law because of...
a minor, as in minor, major and minor, not a minor as in somebody who goes into the ground to go get precious metals.
No, except if you dig too deep. No, you're absolutely right.
Jerry Botha. Okay, sorry, man. I get it. Sorry, I'm like, what? Okay, so if you're a minor, as in not a major. All right. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Below 18.
Yeah.
Or if it's because of marriage,
right,
then you don't automatically lose it.
And you'd need to come back and say, listen, I'm applying for citizenship in another country. I'd like to keep my citizenship in South Africa. Why would somebody want to keep their citizenship in both countries if they're moving to another part of the world?
Well, a lot of South Africans just get a second, another citizenship, not because they want to leave South Africa, just because what they would call as a plan B. They just want to have that other passport to allow freedom of travel, or easier access to visas or work visas in certain other countries.
Right.
So this is quite a complex game. But, for example, if you want to get into the U.S. under a certain work visa category, they've got an allocation per country of how many from South Africa they can allow and how many from another country.
Yeah.
And sometimes that actually makes you qualify for that. And, of course, you get there's so many complaints. If you want to go to the US at the moment, if you want to go to the UK at the moment, how long it takes for you to get a visa to enter the country.
Yeah.
So obviously you've got
and I'm told that it's prohibitively expensive to get the visa. It takes a long time. The admin is quite cumbersome. So you're saying to me that if you've got a UK passport, for example, you have better access to easier travel in other parts of the world than you would if you have just a South African passport because of the ever sliding value of the South African passport?
That's correct. I mean, we are part of the Commonwealth, but we still need a visa to go into the UK.
Yeah.
It obviously does not sit well with me personally, and obviously I guess part of me would love to retaliate and say, well, we should do the same to UK nationals wanting to come visit here. But then again, that might be bad for our economy.
Yeah.
Because we want to become a tourist destination of choice.
Yeah.
So it's not a fair playing field. But I guess there would be good reasons why they decided that if you carry a South African passport, they need to first check who's coming into the country. I don't know what those reasons are, but the travel value of our passport has obviously diminished significantly.
Well, I remember when the UK reintroduced a visa for South Africa not too long ago. I think it's maybe 8-9 years ago.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I remember the big conversation that we were having on radio when people were saying, "Oh no, we should also impose a visa to people coming into South Africa," and I mean from the UK and so forth. And the big reason that the authorities in the UK gave was that there's a lot of people entering the UK illegally, but with South African passports. It appears that at a certain point in time, it was so easy to get a South African passport by criminals or people with criminal intentions. And that was part of the UK's security measures to say, no, from now on, we want you to go through a more stringent process that is going to allow you into our country. It was sad, I think, Jerry, as you say, that that kind of relationship was then lost. But yeah, I suppose the value of our economic contribution to the UK versus theirs to ours is the big issue at the moment. And as you say, it's not always fair, but it is what it is. So I'm interested to understand. So if I then go to the UK and I want to become a citizen there, I've got to then get the application, get the citizenship there, but I will automatically lose South Africa's citizenship unless I apply for it. And again, is it a matter of South Africa's prerogative as to whether or not you keep that citizenship or not?
Well, first, you're correct. You lose it automatically. We've never seen that being declined. So it's still a decision. Obviously, if you were born in South Africa, you've got a constitutional right to be a South African citizen. So, they can't decline you. But when you do apply to Home Affairs to keep your South African citizenship, you must motivate it.
Yes.
Now, whether that's a one-liner or a two-liner motivation, we've never ever seen that being interrogated or being declined.
Yeah.
But it is still a very, very important step to do. Because if you first gain that other citizenship without your application, then technically you actually lose your South African citizenship automatically. And we recently, when we were in London, met there with the embassy, South African embassy, really good officials over there. And they'd explained how many times in their life they've had to do with South Africans go over their students, start working there, life happens, eventually ending up staying there permanently, getting UK citizenship, and then one day want to come and renew their South African passport and get told, sorry, that's not the law, we can't do it. You've lost your citizenship.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, a whole process that you then have to go through if you care to do so.
Well, Zeno on Twitter says, please ask our guest to touch a little bit on citizenship by investment and what are the possible tax implications, if any. You spoke about that, Jerry, about the United States and Canada and Australia, that they offer citizenship by investment. First of all, explain what that means, and then what are the tax implications of that?
So I think there probably is three broad categories. The one category applies to shall I say lesser well-known jurisdictions. Perhaps a Malta,
the Isle of Man.
Isle of Man's actually very difficult. It's nearly impossible to get it, but that's a different. But you're thinking in the right direction.
Yeah.
And the one category is you just give us X amount of money and we'll give you a passport within a certain period. I guess it's for them a way of selling their citizenship to make money.
Right.
The second category is perhaps, if I can use a Portugal or a Malta or a Greece or a Cyprus, where they would say, if you can buy here a certain property, we will give you citizenship after a period. So they really want you to invest in the asset there.
Right.
A fixed property, often in a specific area, and then you get citizenship that comes with that.
In principle, very similar to if you come here with money, we'll give you citizenship.
Well, yeah, in South Africa, I guess, and we also have this category, even though this category is very difficult to get into, it's really where you're a business investor or somebody with capital. So, for example, in the US, if you've got a certain amount of capital, you invest it in a business, you create local jobs for locals, you will basically put on the path to eventually become a citizen.
Right.
And that really is all about attracting entrepreneurs, if I can call it that.
Right.
Because those are guys that give jobs to other people.
And you say we don't have that kind of situation in South Africa where you automatically are eligible for citizenship if you are an investor of sorts?
We do have that visa category.
Okay.
But it is, in all my years, I've come across rare examples where that happens, so to speak. We don't really market ourselves, perhaps, as a destination of choice for that.
Right.
If you want to get South African permanent residency or citizenship, I think there's far easier routes to do it than doing it through this setting up your own business. And basically, that's a very, very long process in South Africa.
Right.
Obviously, you have to make it easy for people to come.
Right. So you were still going to tell me about the tax implications of all of that, yeah?
Yeah. So the easy answer is that I think there's only two countries in the world. The one is the US, and the other one I don't know the name of. It's a very small country that tax you based on citizenship. So in South Africa, if you buy citizenship of another country, it does not change your tax status in South Africa at all.
Yeah.
Citizenship is not a tax test, if I can be so blunt.
Right. But in other countries, you say that is a reality?
The only two where if you become a citizen, you pay tax is the US, and there's one country that actually I'm not even embarrassed to say I don't know, but it's a country that I think it's a very, very small location. I was always thinking it is the US, but I was the other day with Professor Keith Engel of Institute of Tax, and I said to him, the US has got this rule. Only country, and he said, you're actually wrong, Jerry. There's another country, and he mentioned the name, and it went out one year, out the other. Yeah. But
okay.
if you get to UK passport, for example, let's say because of ancestry, or you get yourself a EU passport, none of those countries will tax you merely because of getting citizenship or a passport of that country. It's all about if you're not physically residing there on a permanent basis, that's often where that 183-day rule comes in, then you would not have a tax liability normally in that country.
Well, give us a call, 011-883-0702. Any issues that you would like to ask Jerry Botha around immigration and the tax implications around that. Maybe you're thinking about moving abroad. Maybe you're thinking about relocating, thinking about getting citizenship in another country. Perhaps this is a time for you to call and ask the question as to a specific country. What are the tax implications? What are the processes that you need to follow in order for you to start the process of you going to go and live in Canada? I have a lot of friends, Jerry, that are thinking about moving specifically to Canada. Why is Canada so popular these days?
I think they do a very good job of marketing themselves. And I think that they obviously, I think for many South Africans, they say that it's a safe location and there's lots of wide open spaces. It's a very big country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody
tells you it's cold, though. It's very cold.
It's it's cold, and apparently there's some French people hanging around there. So I'm very pro South African. Yeah. Remember, as a tax guy, we see a lot of people, South Africans, coming back to South Africa, especially with remote working. But I do think, especially if you're a young family and you think of your children, there are segments, and this is of all parts of South Africa, that think, listen, perhaps I should give my children the future in Canada.
Yeah. No, it's true. And tell me about Australia, New Zealand, for example. If I want to today move to New Zealand or Australia, what do I need to do tomorrow?
Well, it really depends on your qualifications. It's tougher to get into Australia than into New Zealand. At one stage, I think a couple of years ago, I'm not sure the status right now, they were literally stealing all our plumbers. So if you're a plumber or you had like a area speciality, like that, they would literally.
So plumbing was a scarce skill in Australia at a certain point in time, and they were taking the world's plumbers.
Actually, they love South African plumbers, and they would go, and they're happy there. It's a valued skill. I not that the plumbers are a typical client. It just was interesting for me that they would take somebody with not even a matric. If you've got that certification that you can do the job, we'll take you.
Wow.
And yeah. And
so I'm understanding by what you're saying that first understand what the scarce skills of the country to which you want to move to are, and check whether or not you qualify at that level.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Are you saying this because scarce skills are the easiest way to enter a country? I mean, you talked earlier on about citizenship by investment, right? But other than that, you're saying to me that perhaps a scarce skill is perhaps the next best option, yeah?
I think that's correct. I think if it's a skill or obviously a degree of qualification. So, for example, in the Netherlands, if you want to go to the Netherlands and you've got like a master's degree qualification in finance, in IT, in engineering, they'll take you.
They're not looking for aging talk show hosts.
No, I'm not. But you mentioned I just know there's a huge shortage over there. But obviously, what you're talking about, if you're aging, many countries, and this is also something we haven't discussed yet.
Yeah.
It's very easy to get a retirement visa in Mauritius. And we've got so many clients that if you're above age 55, choose to basically get a retirement visa to go to Mauritius. It's a quite low level of threshold to qualify for it. And they're welcome there to add to the economy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what would you be contributing to the economy except your age?
You stay there, you spend money.
Yeah, okay. All right, give us a call. I'd love to hear from you. If you are thinking about moving to any specific country, give us a call. Jerry is the man to talk to. He'll tell you what qualifications you need. And it appears that if you are aging, Mauritius will take you. 011-883-0702 is the number to dial. I'd love to hear from you. And then, of course, there are other countries. I mean, I've been seeing that Russia, for example, is quite aggressive in trying to attract people to come and stay in Russia. Any uptakes for that from South Africans?
I've not seen many South Africans move to Russia in my professional career. Depending on what U.S. news outlet you follow, it sounds like they might be looking for recruits with military background. but we've not seen practically that happen.
No, I've just been seeing a lot of on various social media platforms. The Russian consulate saying, try Russia. There's no cancel culture there. All sorts of wonderful, interesting stuff. Let me speak to Ben in Johannesburg. Hi, Ben. Hello, Ben.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, Ben.
All right, good. And to your guest, is Jerry.
Yeah.
I came into South Africa in 1976 from Rhodesia.
Yeah.
I finished school. I went to go and work here. I came to go and work here and I moved up with my parents. And I came in 76. The laws only changed in 78 that after 5 years you become a naturalized citizen. They always said I don't have to be a citizen as long as I've got my permanent residence permit. Now, for health reasons, I need to get and also for traveling purposes, I want to get a passport. I want to be able to vote. In answer to your question earlier, you can't vote on a permanent residence on citizenship barcode.
Yeah.
You cannot vote.
Yeah.
Even municipal elections.
Yeah.
You can pay your fee, you can pay your taxes, you can do whatever. You're treated as a normal citizen.
Right.
But now I went 2 or 3 years ago. I started going to get all my papers sorted out. I'm in stage renal, and now I want to go sort out my kidney. And I've got to get a copy of my PSAL, my permanent residence, from Pretoria or Brits or wherever they keep it. And I've got to go through a company or something, Visa Services. I can't remember the exact name. They want 1,500 odd rand. I don't know how much it is today. For one page, an A4 page of just a copy of my permanent residence. I find that's an absolute, I think somebody's catching someone somewhere. To be able to go to Home Affairs and get copies of things like that. And I did incidentally pay 100 rand 5, 6, 7 years ago. It never got to me. I paid for a copy and it never got to me, and I had to apply again. How come Home Affairs doesn't sort out and do these things themselves?
Yeah.
Why does it have to go to a third party? And for another time, who is the third party? Where's all the money going to?
Ben in Johannesburg, I think he's talking about VFS there, Jerry, but please, if you could help us answer the question. I remember speaking to the minister about the whole VFS issue, but please help us out, please, Jerry.
Well, I mean, I think it's a point well made, and I think that if you submit through the VFS, it's obviously it costs money. They charge a fee, and you cannot speak to the Department of Home Affairs directly. You cannot submit it indirectly. And I know that if you're a South African abroad, with certain applications historically you could do directly to the embassy. You have to use the VFS and pay a fee. VFS, I think, stands for Visa Facilitation Services. So it's not just a South African animal, it's a bit of a global animal. I do get the point that if you pay your taxes and government needs to offer you a service, why should you pay for it? And I think that your number that you've mentioned, it's painful, but it's equally harsh for a ZEP permit holder that needs to do a application. That's not somebody earning lots that has to pay that fee. And it would be perhaps a good gesture, if those fees can be looked at for people that kind of for where it's an affordability issue, or perhaps it's a principal issue.
Yeah, no, and I remember there was that conversation with the minister, and I suppose that what was said was that's the cost, that's what it costs. But I can imagine that it must be very frustrating, very, very debilitating for people that are trying to get that document. And yes, the figure that was named was around about 1,500 rand, which can be very, very difficult. Let me speak to Marvin in Johannesburg. Hi, Marvin.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, thanks, Marvin. What is your question for Jerry?
Yeah, I've been trying to legitimize myself in South Africa. Ever since I got to my South African wife under customary law, I've not been able to legitimize myself. So they have been telling me, no, I held another spousal visa before, so it's not going to be possible for me to change conditions while in the country. So I must go back and come back again. And I couldn't go back because I knew that I had a lot of problems in the country before I came here. So it has not been easy for me to legitimize myself with my wife who's got kids for me. I've tried everything I could. I've been extorted by a lot of agents, and I cannot actually go back now with the way it is. I need to get my marriage certificate with my wife in South Africa because I love her and I've got my kids, I've got my family that I've built here. So it has been difficult for me, and I've been here for 12 years. This 2022 is going to make me 12 years in the country. And
did you have another customary law marriage certificate before this one?
No, sir.
So where did they get that from?
No, the certificate actually came from her family because Home Affairs has refused to legitimize me by giving me a Home Affairs marriage certificate.
But how can a family give a marriage certificate?
No, I haven't got a marriage certificate yet with my wife. I only get a Lebula letter, which is also known as a customary law certificate. It's handwritten.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Jerry? Hello, Jerry?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry. I think that, there's probably just 2 points to take from that is when you do any sort of submission to Home Affairs, you must take extra care to give them absolutely the right information that adjudication official understands. Because the moment that something is outdated or not correct, you get rejected. And that is just the official doing their job. So I do kind of get the point, the moment that your facts are slightly complex, you probably need help with that. And that as a humble tax code, that's outside my game. I think the other point, which is raised, which is very, it's a big issue, is this thing that certain applications you have to leave South Africa before you can apply for a certain category. And obviously that comes with a huge cost, and it basically breaks families apart sometimes. And then you put a person in a position sometimes where they overstay their welcome, and when they then they leave South Africa, they get stamped as undesirable, and they can't come back, and you have to go through a whole process to get upliftment on that. So I think the on the one end, the process is not perfect. I think no country's process is perfect. We can comfortably say that, but I do think that you must make effort to make sure,
Jerry,
that I probably would have got
we've
married.
completely run out of time. But tell me, how do people get in touch with you if they want to have these conversations offline?
We are a tax firm, so we're www.taxconsulting.co.za, or they can just normally Google Jerry Botha, Jerri Botha, and our name should pop up, and we will always try and help. So thank you so much for the time.
Jerry, thank you so much.